Hello and welcome to another episode of the Think Different Prep series. In this episode, we are going to be diving in to why your environment is your edge when it comes to physique comp preps. Most competitors obsess over macros, training blocks, supplements, and step targets, but almost nobody looks at the thing that determines all of it, your environment. You can be disciplined, you can be motivated, you can be willing to suffer, you can put in the work, you can grind, be willing to give up sleep. But if your environment does not align with your goals, you will almost certainly lose. You cannot outwork, outdiscipline, outsuffer, outgrind a life setup that is challenging you at every turn and point, at every instance and interaction, at every point of your day. Today, we dive into the second psychological pillar of prep, environment and relationships. This isn't about decorating your house with motivation quotes or buying new shaker bottles or putting some inspirational post photos, making sure you've got that Conquer quote from Arnold in your training facility. This is about the people you live with, the atmosphere you operate in, the emotional energy you're surrounded by, the behaviors that are normal in your world or have been normalized, the expectations that people around you have of you. Your environment influences your discipline silently, more than hunger, fatigue, or even willpower. This episode teaches you how to audit, shape, and control your world so it becomes an advantage, not a threat, not a challenge. Today's episode, we break down how environment influences discipline, adherence, and stress, why relationships and support systems determine prep success, energy management amplifiers versus drain, what to audit in your environment before prep begins, how to communicate expectations and boundaries effectively, and more of a closing principle to understand is that you can't outwill a poorly designed environment. The invisible power of environment. Your environment is shaping you whether you realize it or not. What you don't have a choice in is that you absorb the habits around you, the language spoken daily, internal or external, the energy people carry, the standards of the household and those that surround you, the attitude towards discipline and goals. You become what you are surrounded by, not because you want to, but because your brain mimics the behaviors that are normalized in your environment. It is harder to think, it is harder to grow, it is harder to challenge yourself if those around you do not align with those actions. What a misaligned environment looks like. Partners who resent your preps, friends who pressure you to live a little, as household that treats structure as controlling, they look at preps as restrictive, a workplace that demands emotional labor that you don't have, family dynamics that drain your mental bandwidth. This isn't about drama or conflict, creating problems. This is not home and away or neighbors. It's about recognizing that environments create friction or flow. The friction is what kills your prep. So, what does support alignment look like? It is one of the hidden predictors of genuine success. In every successful long prep, there is an alignment, not a perfect support, not a perfect relationship, but simply alignment. Two people align on the same outcome occurring that share the same space. What are those three levels to that alignment? Understanding. Your circle understands what prep demands. Agreement. They accept the season you're entering. Behavior. They act in ways that don't sabotage or attempt to sabotage your goals. Without these three, you eventually break because prep requires predictability, stability, emotional safety, reduced conflict, lower decision fatigue. If the people around you are working against your process, your mental energy goes into managing them, not executing your plan. Energy management. There are what we call drains and amplifiers. Every person in your environment does one of two things. They amplify your performance in whatever domain that is, or they drain it. There is no neutral position. The people around you contribute to the way you live, whether you like it or not. Amplifiers calm your energy. They predict behavior. They have predictable behavior. They are supportive and they communicate supportively. They respect your routine. They are low in drama or lower the drama threshold. They are emotionally mature. Drainers, or another way to look at them is anchors. They're unpredictable, emotionally volatile, emotionally needy, borderline narcissistic or neurotic. They guilt trip, resent towards your discipline because they either can't do it or don't want to do it. Constant questioning of choices, creating choice points where they aren't necessarily needed for one. Chaos disguised as spontaneity. The more drained you are emotionally, the harder prep feels physically. And the reverse is also true. When your environment is supportive, prep becomes significantly easier. When you have the ability to save your energy, your cognitive load for dealing with things that actually arise during a prep, not personal, petty, dramatized things that come from friends, you retain the ability and the capacity to deal with them. When you spend all that energy dealing with low level, surface, dramatic things, you lose the ability or lose the available currency, what I call cognitive currency, to deal with the problems that you are facing. This is where drainers and amplifiers come into play. So, how do you audit your environment before prep begins? Before you begin, ask these questions. Does my home support my routine? Does my partner understand the season that I'm entering and what that requires? Are my friends aligned with my goals or threatened by them? Are they surface level supportive or are they going to turn on me the second things get a little bit harder and I can't come out as often? Does my workplace allow for structure or do I need to put in boundaries now that will protect my time, my energy, and my commitments in the future of my prep? There are certain times in life where you're able to give your absolute all to a workplace, especially if you work for someone else and not yourself. But if your own goals outside of that work environment threaten or conflict with the workplace environment you have, boundaries must be erected sooner than later to ensure you protect the energy, time, and peace that you have to execute a prep. Does my lifestyle allow for consistency? If the answer is no to any of these, you fix this before prep, not during. Prep will not magically create this level of environmental control. Prep is pressure, but pressure exposes fractures. Your environment must be solid enough to withstand the load or else it will collapse. So then how do you communicate expectations and boundaries effectively? Most prep conflict doesn't come from prep. It comes from unclear expectations, unclear changes, circumstances, and decisions that others are unaware of or don't understand. So how do you set prep boundaries the right way? Start early when you have the cognitive and emotional capacity to have harder, conflicting conversations. Don't wait until you're exhausted, emotional, and snappy. Explain the purpose of prep and what it means. As far as most people are concerned, being a little bit hungrier, being a little bit leaner is more than sufficient. You've earned the diet break. You've earned the cheat meal. You can have some relaxation. If they don't know any better, they don't know what they don't know. You cannot expect others to understand the perspective that only you have seen. They need to be made aware of what is going to happen or what is required. Define what will change: time, commitments, availability, sleep schedules, training schedules, nutrition. All these things must be defined clearly. Define what won't change. I'm not leaving you. I'm not going away. I'm still available to talk to. I will still be available to catch up. It may just be a coffee instead of an alcoholic beverage. Be honest about your limits. Sorry right now, but I don't have the capacity to deal with this. Right now, I cannot do X. I would love to do Y, but I do not have the ability right now. These things have to get done first. I will come see you later. Don't negotiate your non-negotiables. As soon as you start negotiating, it implies that there is a position to take that changes your mind. The more you spend time negotiating, the more cognitive energy that you spend on those conversations, the less you have later. Boundaries aren't just walls. They are agreements to protect the season that you are entering. You don't need your environment to be perfect. You just need it to be stable and predictable. You can refine the process of your environment along the road, along the path. You just need to be stable and be able to protect that stability. Some athletes walk into prep with world-class genetics, perfect programming, and a strong internal motivation, a drive to get things done. But their downfall wasn't physique or effort. It was environment. Environment ties to our previous episode when we look at structure and systemization. How you systemize your environment, how you systemize your household, how you systemize your alarms, how you systemize your time. It is all amplified or made harder by your environment. We look at a partner who felt threatened that you were improving or changing, a friendship group that was mocked or mocked you based on discipline, a workplace that consistently changed their hours or expectations of what you were required to do for your job, family conflict that never gets resolved, it gets brushed under the rug, never addressed or fixed. The prep for these athletes didn't fail in the gym. It failed in the living room, the kitchen, the friend group, the workplace, the social hangouts. Once these environments get rebuilt, though, once these conversations are had, these changes are put in place, prep stopped becoming battles. It became execution at a high level of intention. So before you start prep, answer to yourself, write them down, have the conversation, and really dig into it. Are my relationships aligned, or am I negotiating every single day when I try to do anything around my physique? Does my environment encourage discipline or resent it? Do I feel supported or drained by the people closest to me? Is my living situation predictable enough for a deficit? Who in my life amplifies my execution and who drains it? Your prep will absolutely reflect your answers. So to finish off, it's important to understand that your environment is not a background variable. It is the platform your prep stands on. You cannot build elite performance on unstable foundations. It, by definition, does not become elite. You cannot grow in soil that rejects the seed. You cannot outwill an environment working against you. Your environment is your edge when it comes to a prep, or your undoing and defeat. Choose it before it chooses your season, and you can't come back from the cost of losing it.